Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I am Tim Kernan, and as you can see, Mike Freshwater is not in studio with us. However, Mike is joining us on the Gamecast Radio hotline. Mike, are you with us?
I'm here, and I love the hotline.
Mike, you are on the hotline, and I think actually you are only one of two people who have been on the Gamecast Radio hotline so far.
Well, I'm very privileged and feel fortunate to be able to do that. So.
Well, Mike, the reason why you are not with us today is you are down in South Carolina with the Alter boys basketball team participating in the Seahawk Classic. And you've been down there a couple days. I know the boys have played a handful of games, and I was hoping maybe you could give us a little update on how things are going down there.
Yeah, we played 2 games. It's a tournament where you get the guarantee of 3 games, and then you move along the brackets depending on whether you win or lose. But we're in a championship game. We won both of our games. The first game against the team out of where were they from? Anyway, we played. The first game was a relatively easy win, kind of close at halftime, but the boys didn't really have their basketball legs, I don't think, after all coming in around midnight the night before. We played at 3 o'clock that day, and so we were a little rusty, I think, maybe not quite ready to play, but took care of business in the second half and won by, I think, 19. And then the second game was yesterday, and as you know, that was an absolute instant classic, 4 overtime, 83-82 win against a really good team out of Tennessee, University High School, a perennial playoff team up in Tennessee.
Wow.
Tournament team up there. Yeah, they made 15 threes. That went a long way in helping keep them in the game. We fouled out 2 starters. 1 got hurt, so we were down to 2 starters most of the overtime, I'm thinking. And just an absolute crazy game. A whole bunch of things had to happen to go our way, and they did. Had a couple kids step up to the free throw line. One with just 3 seconds left. We needed both free throws to tie it and send us to overtime. He made them. And another one, or 3, I'm sorry, he had 3, got fouled shooting 3 with 3 seconds left.
He made all 3. Wow.
Made all 3. Yep. And then we had another kid get fouled right at the buzzer, trying to make a layup or a shot around the rim. He got fouled right at the buzzer. I mean, literally no time on the clock. And we needed both of his free throws to tie it and send it to yet another overtime. And he made both of them. And we just kind of kept hanging in there and doing what we had to do and held on and won by 1. So a pretty exciting game. Everybody got their money's worth. And
oh, absolutely.
Screwed everybody's plans up. That's a game and a half if you're doing the math on the minutes of the overtime. And so anyway, playing in the championship game today against a really, really good team out of Maryland, John Carroll. We watched them yesterday, and they're going to be the best team we played so far here in this tournament. And RJ Greer tweaked an injury late in that game yesterday and didn't finish it. He has been our leading scorer over these past 2 games with 23 and 24, I think.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see if he's available today or not. If he isn't, we're just going to have somebody step up and, fill in. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, now what made that Tennessee team so good? Because I know Alter is good, so.
Yeah. They were just really, really disciplined. 15 threes, like I said, that'll keep you in any game. And they shot a really high percentage. It wasn't like they were shooting threes every time down. They shot a really high percentage. Making 15 threes. They're a little smaller than us, so they spread us out. And, they were hard to guard. We switched defenses multiple times. And they were just really, really good, solid, fundamentally sound. Kind of reminded me of one of those really good teams out of that conference up north, a small school conference, Marion Local, for sales, those kind of teams.
Yeah, just well coached.
Yeah, just really well coached, really disciplined, shot it really well. And one super quick kid who was really hard to guard, and they definitely knew who they were playing because they were in it right. They were into it right from the beginning, and they were very enthusiastic right from the beginning and right up to the very end. And it was a heartbreaker for them, but a dub's a dub.
That's right. And when do they play again today, Mike? I know you mentioned that. I'm sorry.
3 I think, 3 or 3:30.
Okay.
Championship game in the main gym, and all these games have been streamed live over Facebook.
Yes.
And the older Twitter account has been tweeting that link, and we had I think 50 concurrent users was our peak yesterday in terms of watching the game back home, which was kind of cool. So yeah, that's 3 or 3:30. It'll be on Twitter, and you can check out for sure. We played at 3:30. We played at 3, and I'm just not sure which it is, but it's it'll be close enough. And just check out Twitter, and so the link will be out there here pretty soon.
Yeah, I watched the first half, and for some reason I couldn't get the second half, but very exciting. Glad the boys are doing well, and they got a chance of winning it today, so that'll be great. And we'll get your full report next week.
Yep.
Mike, you and I talked last week. I attended the Dayton Flyers game. They took on Cincinnati down at Cincinnati for a quote-unquote neutral site game against the Bearcats. The Flyers came away with an 82-68 victory. And, frankly, I'm going to put my alma mater Dayton Flyers hat on right now, but I thought the Flyers were definitely the better team that night. They led throughout the whole ball game. Cincinnati led early, but then the Flyers took the lead and never gave it up. And they looked really, really good in that game. Kobe Elvis and Deron Holmes III really dominated that game, I thought. Both players had, I think one had 26 and one had 28, but both of those players just played fantastic. And I don't want to undervalue the play of the other players, because Bennett played well and all of them really played well, but those two really stood out to me. And I know you watched the game too. I was interested in your reaction.
Yeah, no, you pegged it, man. Once they got ahead, you felt like they were never going to give it up. And they answered every little run Cincinnati went on and kept that double-digit margin. And, yeah, it was a neutral court, and then the Flyers had to travel, but it sounded like there was a lot of Dayton fans there, Tim.
Well, we had more fans than Cincinnati did, and we were definitely more enthusiastic. There were a couple times where the Cincinnati crowd got into it, but, I mean, they are known nationwide about traveling, but the Dayton fans are incredible. I mean, they will follow that team anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounded really, really loud. A lot of red, though you can't tell between the Bearcat red and the Flyer red. A lot of red in the audience, and they were loud and letting them have it. And the Flyers are shooting it really, really well. One of the top 2 or 3 3-point shooting teams in the country right now, I think, depending on how you look at the rankings or in the stat. But they're shooting it really, really well. If they can keep that up, given everything else that they've got in terms of their bench and how they play defense and what they do defensively, I mean, they're really really optimistic about their chances of not just winning an A-10, but making a deep run in the tournament in March.
Yeah, they of course have beaten Oakland since that Cincinnati game, and you're right, they're shooting it well. I think they had 18 threes in that game, won 91-67. And they have some pretty good notable wins already, Mike. They beat LSU, St. John's, and, of course, Cincinnati a week ago. Their 2 losses on the season. They're 9-2. They lost at Northwestern 71-66, and they lost to Houston in that Charleston Classic, which is where they beat LSU and St. John's. So good losses, if you will, if there's such a thing, Mike. but there's no real blemishes on the schedule right now. But a lot of basketball certainly to be played yet.
Yeah, you got to stay healthy, and it is a long season. Anything can happen. It's only December, late December though, but only December. And but up to this point, I mean, if you're grading UD, I think you give them a solid A. Like you said, they've got some nice wins. Their net rating is pretty high for them, especially the last couple of years. And I think it's an A so far, and they can keep playing that well, and everybody stays healthy and happy. Who knows?
Yeah, I would agree. I would give them the same grade, and I would give also their point guard. He transferred in Bennett, and he has just been playing very well. And one thing before we move on that from this subject, Mike, I know you watched the game, but one thing I thought that Bennett, Elvis, and the guards for Dayton did so well in that game against Cincinnati is they did not panic with the pressure of Cincinnati. I thought they handled the ball so well, and I thought that was a huge key in the game for them to not only kind of extend their lead, but maintain that lead because they just did not turn the ball over.
Yeah, if you don't turn it over, you don't give the other team extra possessions, and obviously gives your team a chance to score more often. And I totally agree with you, especially once they got down. And I'm going to say, particularly about 3 or 4 minutes into the second half, I felt like Cincinnati really kind of cooked it up even more.
Yeah.
And they did a fantastic job of handling that. And that's a good sign because they're going to face some teams down the stretch that do the same thing. And the fact that they were able to do that against UC, a Big 12 team now, right? That's a good sign.
Yeah, the only thing that I thought that the Flyers did not do well that night is they gave Cincinnati a lot of second chance rebound, second chances on their defensive end, Cincinnati's offensive end. They gave them 2 or 3 looks sometimes, but Cincinnati was very big. I mean, they were a huge team. But I think if I was to, give any criticism to the Flyers in that game, it was defensive rebounding. They need to hit the glass a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a good observation. I don't disagree. UC's recruiting to the Big 12 now, and they've got to get big kids, big, strong guys. I mean, have you seen some of these dudes that play at Baylor and I mean, they're enormous. They live in the weight room.
Yeah.
But in Houston, I think so. Cincinnati's recruiting to that level. They have to, and they may not have it going right now. This is this first full year in the.
I think, I believe you're right. Correct.
But I think Wes Miller is a good coach. I think he's proven himself already, and I think he's going to get them going. But nonetheless, it's still a really good win, and the Flyers did, I think, as good as anybody could have expected across the board.
Agreed, Mike. So I wanted to move on, Mike, into the college football landscape, if you will. We are inching closer and closer to, I would say, the football games that mean a little bit more, although I think only the top 2 matchups really is all that people are interested, especially as the college landscape is changing so much. But you got Alabama and Michigan. Michigan is -1.5 in that one, and you got Texas and Washington, and Washington is +4. And Mike, this past week we had the early signing period, and I think having that early signing period is what is your opinion as to this early signing period and as it relates to the bowl games? Because it's all happening right at once.
Yeah, well, I've heard multiple people say who are pretty close to the situation say that the earlier you get in, the better. It helps your chances of finding and landing a spot. But I don't know what the answer is because as you know, there are 2 signing periods, and this one, and as far as the portal goes, this one and one in spring, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how else you can do it. It doesn't help that you have teams. You have a guy off. I think I had a kid that was starting. I think for Texas is either not playing because he's going to the draft. I can't remember what I saw, but it's crazy that team guys would leave before they had a chance to go enjoy, a bowl trip.
Yeah,
but,
it is crazy.
But they, I think they feel like they have to do it to enhance their chances of finding a place to go. And like we said before in the past, I think it is only 35% of dudes who enter the portal actually land in a different spot.
Yeah, that's scary.
So, but yeah, I think, of course, who goes to the portal in this time frame is interesting. But now that I'm going to be paying a little bit closer attention to it, I think the kids that jump in the spring, that's going to be equally as interesting, right? Because I think a lot of them are going well, if I have a good spring, I'll help myself, and but if I don't, then I got to get out. So I don't know. It's just I don't think it's ever going to go away. We've had this conversation before. I think there's going to be restrictions, but it certainly adds a lot of controversy and conversation to the college football and even basketball, really, the world. Gives us something to talk about, I guess, Tim. But
yeah,
players are moving around a lot. It's hard to keep track of some of them. Those high-profile quarterbacks that jump around, it's crazy.
It really is. Well, the early signing period, I think, is good for Notre Dame because a lot of times, they have had great classes that were, verbaled, if you will, to them, and they have lost players late. And, every school does, of course, but Notre Dame had 23 players that were verbaled. There were verbal commitments, and all 23 signed this past week. So Notre Dame had a very good class. I've seen different rankings. One had him at 8, one had him at 9, and one had him at 11. And I think the one that had him 11, they got pushed up to 8 because some other teams lost some recruits that bumped them up. So it depends on where you're looking and what you're reading. But Notre Dame, I think, has a top 10 class, which is very good. Of course, you want to be higher, but with how everything changes so much, I think it was a very successful signing class for Marcus Freeman, and I think the highlight of the class was Kingston Viliamu-Asu, a linebacker out of Empire, California. He plays for St. John Bosco. There were a lot of teams that were after him, including Ohio State, I believe. But I think he's the highlight of the class. And C.J. Carr, QB out of Michigan, he is Lloyd Carr's grandson, chose Notre Dame over Michigan, and kind of impressed with that, actually. He didn't give in to the pressure and went with his heart. He was always a Notre Dame fan and wanted to go there. But, I won't bore everyone with all of the players that signed with Notre Dame, but certainly those two highlight the class. And they also got an absolutely huge offensive lineman out of Boston, Massachusetts, Gerby Lambert, that I think they're looking for him to be one of the tackles as he gets on campus.
Yeah, I think what happens, I'm guessing what happens when schools lose out in terms of actually signing kids who verbally commit. I think other programs ultimately find some value in having that particular player, and then just come up with more money.
Yeah.
Or a better offer. I mean, it had to be. When I think about it, it seems like it was pretty rare back in the day to have a lot of kids across all the programs, leave between the verbal and the actual signing. It seemed like back before the portal and NIL, guys they stuck with their commitments. Nobody was coming around with a better deal or a better offer. But now with NIL the way it is, I mean, Ohio State lost out on a. I know, you've got a lot of several of the programs have this happen. They lost out on a couple high-profile kids. Really big programs. Who for sure off just gave more money. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
That's changed.
Yeah, there's no doubt last year that Notre Dame lost out on Dante Moore. He was, I believe, the number one quarterback coming out of high school. He was committed to Notre Dame all along. And just as you said, a couple teams came sweeping in late. Then he was supposed to go to Oregon, and at the last minute decided to go to UCLA. But not surprisingly, he is in the portal. I don't know if he's signed with anybody right now, but and I think you're going to see a lot of that, Mike. Players going with the money, not going with their heart, and having buyer's remorse later after that first year, and looking to go somewhere else. They chase the money instead of going where they really wanted to go.
And then there's also the possibility of a coach that gets they commit to a coach.
Sure.
And that's really why they end up going somewhere to begin with, just because of the coach. They commit to a coach who gets fired, and then they're decommitting, and sometimes they go back to the original spot because they might like the new guy, and sometimes they don't. But I think money is the biggest reason, and especially with the high-profile kids and the quarterbacks and top wide receivers. And I think I've heard that the money deals are being a little bit inflated in terms of what kids are being offered by their agents, quote unquote. It kind of gave them some kind of a negotiation edge, but it's all wrapped up into one big freaking mess, isn't it?
It is. We'll see how what happens going forward, but anyways, a couple more things. Go ahead.
You need to keep a scorecard and track all these kids so you know where they're at and who they're playing for, and all this movement. It's impossible to really get a handle on it.
Yeah, I don't like all of it. I don't necessarily have any problem with the kids making some money, but I think it's just it's out of control right now. But anyways, a couple more things about Notre Dame, Mike. Mike Brown was hired as the wide receivers coach. Chancey Stuckey was let go by Notre Dame, and this is some big news that came out yesterday. I don't know if they've officially made the hire, but there are rumors out there that Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator at LSU, is being courted by Notre Dame and is interested, and they are talking. I don't know if that has been official yet, but this would actually be Mike Denbrock's third stint at Notre Dame. He was at Notre Dame under Willingham and was also at Notre Dame under Kelly. And he was with Kelly at LSU. And interestingly enough, Mike, I also saw, and this is rumor as well, unless you've heard something different, but I've heard that Brian Kelly could possibly go to the New England Patriots. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have heard that, but I mean, it would not surprise me, right? The way that dude moves around.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
He's definitely one of those guys that follows the money, right? And
couldn't agree more.
Throw enough money, yep. And if they throw enough money at him, he's going to make a change. And would not be surprised if that happened, but you can only wait and see.
And I thought that was so interesting that came out after Denbrock was rumored to be going back to Notre Dame, because it just everything just seems to flow in a certain direction when pieces start to fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely they do.
Yeah.
Usually where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And who knows? Maybe there's some discontent among the Brian Kelly staff down there, and well, who knows? But that would be a little bit of a shocker if that just came out of left field that Brian Kelly was leaving LSU to go to New Orleans to the Saints. But
crazy.
I guess it wouldn't surprise me all that much.
No, it wouldn't me either. Jared Parker, excuse me, was the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He left. He was hired by Troy to become their head coach. So, looking to see confirmation on whether or not Mike Denbrock will return to Notre Dame. I know he is their number one choice, so we'll certainly keep our eye on that one. So, Mike, let's move on to Ohio State. They had 24 class signees. Any surprises to you in that? And what would you consider some of the best players that they were able to sign in that freshman class? And did they fill their needs? You know, a lot of times people look at the stars, you know, and how great of players that were signed in a class, but did they fill their needs? I think that is really what's more important than just stars.
Yeah, no, I think they did. Of course, everybody was kind of waiting on the wide receiver from Florida, and I don't know why it's early in the morning. His name completely escapes me right now. The number one of the top, you know, at least for sure one of the top 10 recruits in the country, top wide receiver. They're already comparing him to Marvin Harrison. He waited until the very last minute for some reason, or Ohio State did, to announce his commitment, and then the fact that he had actually signed a document. But I think they for sure, filled their needs, and I think the fact that they did not get heavily into the portal, or they haven't yet, tells me they're very confident and really like the group that they've got. I didn't see the final rankings. Maybe you did, Tim, but I know right up to the very end, they were top 3 or 4 with that recruiting class, having lost a couple guys at the last minute to programs who probably came in with a little bit more money. But they have not signed a quarterback yet. They've got one of the top recruits coming in, and they're going to give him, and we'll see how Devin Brown plays and plays the Kyle McCord in the bowl game, and Lincoln Kleinholtz, one of the other quarterbacks currently on the roster. I think they're going to probably look at those 3 dudes and tell them have at it. You know, who best man wins next season, and I don't know. It's interesting that they have that much confidence in all those guys, but I think they filled their needs. I think they got some really good high-profile guys. They recruited at almost every position across the board. They're getting 4s and 5s right and left. So I think it was another really good year for them recruiting-wise, and like all those kids, and I think there's probably 7 or 8 that have a chance of playing significant time next year. That's true freshmen. So only time will tell, but I think they're confident in that class. I think it's a deep class, very highly ranked, and to me the potential's there.
Yeah, I saw a couple rankings too. I don't know what makes everything different for some of these outlets, but I saw 1, 2, and 3 for Ohio State. And like you, there's a name of a player out of Chicago. Notre Dame wanted him really bad, but he committed to Ohio State and then went to Miami right at the end. So
Right.
I think you're right. He's a big defensive lineman, and for the life of me, I can't remember his name at the moment.
Right.
But yeah.
But what's interesting, Tim, is they got 7 guys from Ohio, which is a lot, I think, for them. If you look at the last several years, they got 7 kids from Ohio, which I love. They got 2 brothers out of Lakewood St. Ed's, offensive linemen. They're really big.
That ain't a bad program to get recruits from.
No, Devontae and Deontay Armstrong.
I see that on the
St.
list.
Ed's.
Yep.
6'6" and 6'7", 288, 270 pounds. Only freshmen, obviously. But 7 or 8 kids out of Ohio, which I love when they can, get all the really good, a lot of the really good kids out of Ohio, keep them home. I hate when, that they leave, but they recruited, Florida, Virginia, Arizona. They got Texas, Georgia represented in this class. So they did a really nice job of getting around the whole country, really, and finding guys and selling them and getting them to commit. And I think if you want to compete for a national championship every year, you have to be able to do that. Get the best kids out of Ohio, and get a lot of the really good kids. Yeah, a lot of the really good kids out of the other football states like Texas and Arizona and Florida, and you can be competitive. You have to be able to do that to be competitive and have a chance to win the national championship every year.
And you mentioned Devontae and Deontay Armstrong. They're both offensive linemen. How about
Right.
that? I mean, if both of them start on that offensive line, you're going to have some proud parents there, certainly.
That's a great story if it
It
happens.
really
I've
is.
heard one is rated or ranked a little bit higher than the other, and you almost feel like you got to make both of them happy to keep them, right? If
Yeah,
one leaves, the other might follow. But
right.
that might end up being a great story at Ohio State if both of those kids can start and play and make major contributions.
And also, one other player on the list that kind of caught my eye, Mike, Demarion Witten, a tight end out of Cleveland. The Alternites, of course, went against him. And a 6'3", 215-pound, listed as a tight end. I thought he kind of played receiver more for Glenville, but I was pretty impressed with him. So they got another great player in Demarion Witten.
Yeah, they're probably going to put some weight on him and keep him as a pass receiving tight end. It would be easy for him to get to Ohio State and put on 20 or 30 pounds relatively quickly. And if he can do that and stay very athletic and fast like he is right now, they might have a major weapon. But yeah, he is absolutely he was a beast in that state championship game.
Sure was. Yeah, so Ohio State signing another impressive class, so they are certainly going nowhere on the college stage. They will be right back in the top 5 again next season. And going to be very interesting, Mike. I am really looking forward to next year, actually, because when they go to that 12-team playoff, that to me just seems more of a realistic type of championship that they will be having. I think it's going to make the end of the season more interesting. It's going to make more bowl games interesting. And this is just my theory, but I think you're going to see less movement in the portal when you got that 12-team playoff. Your thoughts?
I agree. It's possible. It's very possible. It's going to make it. I don't want to say the word easy, but you're not going to have. Once you start saying or basically guaranteeing the 5 Power 5 conference champions are going to get in, basically, and then what 7 at-larges, I guess you could say. You would think players would have a tendency to stay put, but again, it's all about playing time and money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know if it will or not, Tim, but it certainly changes things a lot. I just wish they had kind of eased their way into this and gone with 8 this year and then 12 next year. They needed to figure out a way to kind of bridge that in, and that would have been kind of fun to have those extra 4 teams. But it's going to change things, and we've had this conversation before, but I think it's going to make it's going to give you more important bowl games, right? Because
exactly.
You're going to have more important bowl games, which can maybe resemble what it used to be back in the day. But it's going to be exciting and fun, and the schedules that we're seeing coming out now, since some of these teams have merged into the Big 10 and the SEC, Pac-12 basically dissolving, which is absolutely insane.
I hate that.
It's insane that that's happened. The Conference of Champions has
and they
dissolved.
had such a great year. All those teams out there.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Somebody out there really dropped the ball. But when you look at some of those schedules that some of these teams now have, and I've paid closer attention to the Big Ten and Michigan and Ohio State. There are some marquee games out there now.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be, and it all comes together at about the right time. Because you're not going to get 4 undefeated teams next year probably, and
right.
You're going to have teams getting in with 2 losses, that kind of stuff. But I think it's all good and kind of exciting, and I'm going to be interested in watching how that all unfolds and watching some of those games. Ohio State, UCLA, Michigan, and USC during the regular season. conference games. I mean,
I'm here for it.
Yep, me too.
Well, and as much hell as I gave Michigan about their high school schedule this season, next year they have a
They're
pretty
paying
good
for it.
schedule next year. They
Yeah,
really do.
they do. Their schedule next year might be, in terms of strength, top 2 or 3 before the season even starts.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Mike, let's head into pro football. This weekend, we got some games today, and the divisional rivalries, I guess, is how you would kind of categorize this weekend. I'm gonna stick by my statement from the last couple of weeks, but pro football is just so unpredictable. But I kind of feel like the playoff picture is starting to take shape. There's still a lot out there that could happen, obviously, but we're getting to that point in the season where you can kind of see the playoff picture start to kind of maybe get the puzzle pieces in place a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, especially in terms of the couple of the conference champions. I think the Ravens have clinched playoff. I don't think they've clinched the division, but they've clinched the playoff. So you're starting to see some of those chips fall, like you said.
Correct.
But what's still true is how many teams are still in the hunt. It's crazy.
It is.
It's absolutely going to come down to some tiebreakers, and that decide who gets in and who gets out. And and everybody's going to say, "Hey, man, that game in week 3 that really counted, man. We should have done more. We should have done better earlier in the season because
absolutely."
Right?
You literally took the words right out of my mouth. You look back into those September games and you're like, oh, we absolutely should have won that game. Yeah.
Right.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, the Bengals are 8-6. They got some injury concerns. Of course, we know that Joe Burrow is out. Jamar Chase is out. I think he's got a shoulder issue, and Reeder, their big defensive lineman, is out, which is just a killer. But the Bengals rallied to beat the Vikings last week. Were down the whole game, came back in the fourth quarter, and found a way to beat the Vikings and stayed alive pretty much in the playoff picture. But the Bengals are going to be at Pittsburgh. Their remaining schedule is at the Chiefs. And then, of course, Mike, we've talked about it for several weeks. But that game against the Browns could just be absolutely gargantuan at home.
I'm not sure I'm ready for that, man. I am not sure I'm ready for that. If it does, I may not even watch it. I may find a dive bar in East Dayton that doesn't have TVs and hang out there for 3 hours.
Oh, that is funny.
It might. It very well might. And I mean, that would be a fitting way to finish the season for both teams. You talked about the Bengals injuries. I mean, my God, the Browns, 26% of their
I know you're not going to shed a tear for me on that one.
No. 26% of their opening day roster is out for the season, which is just insane. They're on their 4th quarterback, and they're on the verge of going to the playoffs. It's just that it's mostly their defense. Joe Flacco has done an outstanding job the last 3 weeks. You got to give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit. They're on the doorstep, and one more win I think gets them in there. And that's what I want. I want them to have clinched before we get to that Bengals game, so I don't have to sweat it out.
Well, they're 9-5, and
right.
They won a squeaker against the Bears. Bears, man. I think everybody has probably seen that last play, but the Bears had a chance to just win on a Hail Mary right at the end. And I think it was you who sent me a clip of the Browns, the radio broadcaster who just went crazy at the end. And he also touched on what you just did about all the injuries that the Browns have overcome. And look, I'm not a Browns fan, but they are a good team. And with how many players they have lost this season, I couldn't agree with you more. Stefanski has just done an incredible job with that team to be where they are with all the players that they've lost.
Yeah, it's crazy what they've been able to accomplish, and if they do win one more and get in the playoffs, it may be one of the best coaching jobs ever, really, if you think about it in terms of all the
Can't
injuries they've
argue.
had to deal with, especially offensively. They lost their quarterback. They lost maybe the best running back in the league, like week 2. They've lost, I think 3 of their starting offensive linemen. Both tackles have been replaced because they're out for the season. I mean, the offense has been decimated from an injury perspective, and the defense has had a few key guys, but they haven't been nearly as banged up as the offense. And Kevin Stefanski is the offensive coordinator, and so to look at what he's done and what they've accomplished, it's truly amazing. And there's a lot of drama left, as my kids say. There's a lot of drama left. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the next 3 weeks. But it's so good. So so far so good.
Well, and I'm kind of impressed. It's easy to pick on the Browns for the last 10, 15 years, but I'm pretty impressed with the organization as well. I mean, how many times, you lose a quarterback like they did in Watson, and they made some moves. They had some other quarterbacks come in, but they didn't stay put, Mike. They continued to look, and they found Joe Flacco. I just kind of give them credit for that because they could have just said, well, look, we've had all these injuries. We're just going to go with the quarterbacks we have and see what happens. No, they didn't. They decided to give Flacco a chance, and I think he's good enough. He's certainly good enough to take him into the playoffs.
Yeah, apparently he is. I mean, where was this guy all season when all these other quarterbacks were
Crazy.
going down and other teams were plugging in no-name guys off their roster? Where was Joe Flacco in all of this? I mean, he looks really, really good. Why was he not on an opening day roster somewhere?
I don't know.
At least as a backup, right?
Yeah, crazy.
But, he's loving it. He's really loving it. He feels reinvigorated, and he's really thrilled to be able to give his kids a chance to see him play one more time. And he's really happy, and maybe that's the key, being really, really happy and having fun, because he is right now, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more, and he's a class act. And again, obviously not a Browns fan, but I'm rooting for him. Class act. And you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Something about being happy, boy, just refreshing. Nice to see. But the Browns will be at Houston, and then they will take on the Jets at home, and then of course that Bengals game that we talked about. But Mike, league leaders in the AFC. The Dolphins lead at 10-4 in the East. The AFC North, of course, the Ravens. They're at 11-3. The AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars lead at 8-6. But the Colts are right there. Jaguars are listed as in first place because I believe they defeated the Colts. But you also have the Houston Texans at 8-6. So 3 teams up at the top at the AFC South, and the AFC West, of course, Kansas City at 9-5. And Mike, in the NFC, Dallas, I can't quite figure out Dallas. Some weeks they look like Super Bowl contenders, and some weeks they just look terrible. But they're at 10-4, tied with the Eagles, but I think they definitely have the tiebreaker over the Eagles. NFC North, Detroit Lions. I love that story. Detroit 10-4. And love to see Detroit in there. Good for them. NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 7-7, New Orleans Saints at 7-8. So pretty close 1-2 there. And of course, the class of the NFC West is the San Francisco 49ers, who are 11-3, and they look to be in early season form right now, clicking on all cylinders. So you have your leaders there, Mike, but as we've been talking all along, a lot of shuffling still yet to be made in the NFL.
Yeah, the NFL is a week-by-week league. I mean, hot takes like crazy on Monday every week. And but the 49ers have come back around after that losing streak they went on. I think the Browns started it. Bengals helped as well. And then the Cowboys, I mean, they look so good, and then look at them, right? They go on the road. They can't win on the road. I mean, they can't win on the road.
No.
Somebody asked Jerry Jones during the week why, and he made a good point. And that is that all his home games are inside. When they go to
it's true.
Buffalo,
it's a good
or
point.
they go right. I mean, they go play on grass or in the rain or when it's windy and whatever, I guess they struggle. But so it's an up and down situation. I think the AFC. I mean the Ravens are good, but they've had some close calls. The Browns have beaten them. They've had some close calls. They can definitely be beaten. I think the AFC is wide open. In the NFC, I think it might be just 3 teams: Dallas, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. But I feel like the AFC is a little bit more wide open, even though the Ravens have already clinched the spot and will probably win the division. I feel like it's a little bit more wide open, don't you?
I do, absolutely. These next couple of weeks we'll certainly have a little more clarity, but these things usually go right down to the wire, Mike. I mean, it's like the last night. Well, there's only 2 more weeks left, but we'll have a little more clarity after today and tomorrow. But next week, I'm sure that there will be still some decisions that are made until that haven't been made, I should say, until that last tick goes off the clock.
Absolutely. It's going to be one of those seasons where the last game is probably going to have an impact on somebody's playoff status somewhere, and we're loving it, right?
We are. Mike, real quick, last week we had some pro picks. You went 1-2, and I went 3-0. So I extended my lead as far as the pro picks go. You are 24-32, and I'm 37-19. We didn't have any college, but I would like to do a few college ones. So let's go over what we're going to pick. First, we'll do the pro. We'll do the Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, Buffalo at the LA Rams, of course the Cleveland at Houston game, Dallas at Miami, and Baltimore at San Francisco. So we'll start with the Cincinnati. Pittsburgh is +3, and I have to go with Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's going to get this one because I think they're going to expose Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh stinks. So
I totally agree. I can't argue with that. This is more about how bad Pittsburgh is than how good Cincinnati's playing right now. I definitely would take the Bengals on the road in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so we'll both go on Cincinnati. Buffalo at the LA Rams. LA Rams are +12.5.
Well, I'll take the Rams. I think they're playing well. I mean, they're on a roll. That's a lot of points, right?
It is a lot of points.
I'm going to take the Rams.
All right, we'll put Mike on the Rams, and I will go with Buffalo just for the fun of it. And then we'll go to Cleveland at Houston. Houston is +3.
Yeah, playing with Case Keenum, their backup quarterback, because of the injury to C.J. Stroud, and everybody's liking the Browns right now. That's a tough road game. It's a lot of traveling, different weather conditions down there and everything. But I think the Browns have too much at stake, and they're going to give Keenum fits, and I think the Browns might have a relatively easy win today down there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cleveland. It's tomorrow. Today's game. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh and Buffalo at LA. Those 2 are today. So I will go with Cleveland as well. We will go on the 2 more. Dallas at Miami. Another interesting game. Miami is -1.5. Did I lose your mic?
Just because I'm here, yeah. I like Miami. What about you?
I'm going to go with Miami just because I can't figure Dallas out. Now, it will be warm, so Dallas won't have to be dealing with unless it rains. I don't know what the forecast is down there. But
but they struggle on the road, period. It almost doesn't matter where they're at.
That's true. And I think Miami is very good. I think Miami is going to go over that spread. So,
well, speaking of weather, I think Miami will probably struggle in the playoffs if they got to go on the road and play in a bad weather situation. But if they got good weather, and it's probably going to be good down there, I think they're really good, and good luck trying to slow down that offense.
All right. So we'll both go on Miami. And here's an interesting one, Mike. Baltimore at San Francisco. Now, both teams are pretty much in the playoffs. How are they going to approach this game is my question.
Well,
But
the
San
Ravens
Francisco is
haven't won.
-6.
The Ravens haven't. I don't know about the 49ers, but the Ravens. I don't think either team has won their division yet. So they want to get that number 1 seed in the playoffs. That's what they're playing for right now. That's a big deal. And
this is a heck of a matchup.
Plus, they haven't clinched the division yet. I mean, yeah, they're in the playoffs, but don't you want to win the division? You know, and
you would think,
and get as high a seed as you can. So that's a good one. It's gonna be hard to go against Baltimore though. They've been playing so well and they're clutch. Lamar Jackson's probably the MVP in the league right now. So, much as I hate to say it, I'd go with the Ravens.
All right. I am going to go with San Francisco. I think San Francisco is really good at home. I think they're playing really well right now. I think they've gotten rid of the bugs, if you will, that have been plaguing them throughout some part of this season, that stretch when they lost 3 straight. And that was the only losses that they've had, obviously, were those 3 straight ball games. And I think they've got it going. So I'm going to go with San Fran. And real quick, let's jump into I just got 4 bowl games that I thought we would go on, get back into the college a little bit, Mike.
Okay.
Northwestern versus Utah. Utah is -7.5. That's the Las Vegas Bowl. That's today.
I'm going to go Big Ten there. It's kind of hard for me to bet against them.
All
I'm
right.
not sure how much of that I'm going to be able to see, but I'm going to go with Northwestern.
All right. Just for the fun of it, I will go with Utah. Again, Utah -7.5. The Holiday Bowl, Mike, on the 27th. This one's kind of intriguing. Louisville versus USC. Louisville's 10-3. USC 7-5. Disappointing season for USC. And these are tough games to pick just because you never know who the heck is going to play in the games. But USC is +7.5.
Is your quarterback going to play? I haven't seen that.
I don't think he is, but I'm not positive on that. I don't know that I saw a definitive answer on that.
Yeah. I'm going to go. Man, that's a lot of points for USC, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Trojans and add the point.
All right. I'm going to go with Louisville.
Yeah.
I think USC stinks, and I just think that they got too much going on out there. I think Louisville is going to take that one. I think Louisville is going to be more into it. I'll put it that way. Gator Bowl, Clemson versus Kentucky. Kentucky +7.
Really? And again, don't know who's playing or who's not playing.
Right.
I'm going to take. I'm going to take Kentucky in the points. I like the dogs, generally speaking. I like the underdogs in the bowl games for some reason. And so I'm going to go with the Wildcats in this one.
I'm going to go with Clemson. I think it's another one of those games where Clemson kind of still has a chip on their shoulder because everybody said they were no good. So I'm going to go with Clemson. And that one's on the 29th, and the final one is also on the 29th. This is the one for me, the Sun Bowl, Oregon State versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame is -10.5.
Really?
And Hartman is not playing in the ball game.
Well, neither is Oregon State's quarterback either. In fact, I think he's already fully transferred, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think even the second-string quarterback is not playing for Oregon State.
Yeah, that's the reason right there. Man, that's a lot of points. I'm going with the points again, man. Again, I like the underdogs in the bowl game.
All right. So you'll go with Oregon State, and I have to go with Notre Dame. So
I got the Beavers, baby.
We'll do it that way.
Beavers.
All right, Mike, before we wrap up today, I want to do a little yes, no, maybe. This is one of my favorite parts of the show where I make a statement and Mike and I give our yes, we agree, no, we do not agree, or maybe we agree. But I got a couple non-sports questions and a couple of sports questions for you, Mike. Or not questions, but statements. Christmas gifts should always be opened on Christmas Day.
Absolutely not. Christmas Eve in play. I mean, that for me, for my family, that was our tradition. We opened up gifts on Christmas Eve. We exchanged gifts, and then Santa came on Christmas morning. And so, absolutely, it's okay to open Christmas presents on Christmas Eve.
See, I agree with your statement, But as far as the Santa presents, that absolutely should be Christmas Day.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
We do Kris Kringle gifts on Christmas Eve, but yeah, if they're from Santa, they absolutely need to be opened on Christmas Day.
Well, they're not there until then, Tim. So.
Well, that's right. You're absolutely right. Second statement, Mike. Jake Browning will be a starting QB in the NFL next season.
No. No, I'm just going to go with no. He's had a great run here, but I don't know if he's better than he's a top 30, 31, 32 quarterback in the league and somebody you can make the face of your franchise and depend on to lead you to a championship. So I'm going to go with no.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think somebody's going to give him a chance. So I think he will be a starting QB next season.
So he's not going to be with the Bengals, is what you're saying?
I don't think so. I think somebody's going to go after him, but we'll see. You know, this is maybe something that we could discuss after the season or as we continue to go. But so far, he has looked fantastic. But yeah, I think maybe the jury might still be out on this. We'll see how he finishes out. But boy, if he leads the Bengals into the playoffs, I think somebody's going to make a run at him.
Could happen. Definitely could happen.
All right, Mike, this is kind of an odd one. We'll see if you even know who the hell I'm talking about here. But Dick York is the better Darren in the TV show Bewitched.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I loved that show. Loved it. I thought Samantha was hot.
Oh, she was. Elizabeth Montgomery. She was gorgeous.
Good-looking woman. Agnes Moorehead, the woman who played her mother, is actually buried in Dayton.
I do know that. Right down by UD.
Great trivia question. Woodland Cemetery. But I love Dick York. I'm going to go with he was the man. He was the best Darren.
Absolutely agree. The first Darren was the best Darren, no doubt about it.
Yeah, good question.
Final one today, Mike. This one's going to be near and dear to you, your heart. Jim Brown is the best running back to ever play the game of football.
Yeah, it's a hard one because I just watched the Barry Sanders documentary recently. We should talk about that one of these days on the call here. But
yes.
I'm partial. That's why one of the reasons why I'm a big Browns fans. I grew up watching him and my grandpa's black and white Zenith, and he would run. I mean, he just, if you haven't done it, Google Jimmy Brown highlights or video highlights or whatever. He was a man amongst boys, probably the best player in the league at the time, and one of the top 10 best all-time all-around players in the NFL. I think only played for 9 years, could have lasted 4 or 5 more probably, but I'm going to say yes. He has been my favorite player in the NFL, let alone running back forever, and so I'm sticking with it and saying yes to that question.
I'm going to say yes also, but I'm also going to give you a 1A or a 1B, I should say. And it's hard to put him in the category because his career was cut short by a bad injury. But boy, Bo Jackson was just unbelievable. And
if he had been able to play a full career, we might be having a different conversation, right? I mean,
yeah, and that's why I leave Jim Brown at the top, because I have seen those highlights. Again, I was a little bit too young to kind of appreciate Jim Brown, but he could run the football and he was great out of the backfield catching the football. And Mike, he played at a time where you just had to be tough as nails. I mean, back then they didn't call unsportsmanlike conduct or roughing the passer or things like that. Jim Brown played where they would try to poke you in the eye if they could.
Absolutely, and get away with it.
Yeah, they absolutely did get away with it. Yeah, so, go ahead.
Different era, but he could play today, right? I mean, he would be really good today, I think.
Oh, he absolutely would be, and just a fantastic player. So I'm going to definitely agree with that statement. But yeah, that I would that will be a topic of conversation for another day. But I definitely would like to discuss the Mount Rushmore of running backs, and we could probably do one maybe in the college game and the pro game. But
That'd be fun.
Jim Brown is definitely on that Mount Rushmore.
I agree. Absolutely. I can think of we'd have a good conversation on that one.
Well, we certainly could. Hey, Mike, I know you're busy and you got a lot going on down there,
Yep.
down in South Carolina. You're going to play golf today, is that correct?
I am with one Dusty Hayes, Ulster Gridiron Great down here in the PGA Academy. We're going to play the Arthur Hills Palmetto Dune golf course here in about an hour, and hoping it's going to be about 63 degrees and sunny, so look forward to it.
Well, Mike, enjoy that. I appreciate you taking time this morning and joining the show. We'll look forward to having you back in studio next week. But, Mike, enjoy the rest of your trip. Good luck to the boys today, and enjoy the sports and have a great round of golf. Keep it in the short grass.
I will. Thanks, Tim. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Absolutely. And Merry Christmas to all you folks out there listening. We appreciate it. Do us a favor on your way out, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy all the sports, and we'll see you next time on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
Merry Christmas, everybody.